in the forest you'll find a fabulous banquet, a fairy ball. If you close your eyes and you open your mind, the veil disappears and you'll see it all.
Hi my angels, it's Hailey Reese, and today's video is one that I am so ridiculously excited to come on here, share with you, talk about, and discuss, because you guys know I love scary movies. I love movies especially that I feel properly represent things that could really happen in the paranormal world. And so when there is a film that is really highly talked about, that a lot of people are really enjoying, and it's not only based on a true story, but I feel that the movie was actually properly representing things that do, can, and did happen, I get so excited to come on here and talk about the true story behind it and really discuss everything to do with the film. As you guys can already see from the title, today we are going to be diving into and discussing the true story behind the Netflix movie Veronica. Now, I have heard so much about this movie. I only just watched it like a day ago. I immediately dove into research and trying to read up on every single thing I possibly could as to what the true story behind this is. And it is very shockingly similar to what was represented in the movie. Now, Veronica has actually been deemed the scariest movie on Netflix by many people, and there are actually a lot of people who claim that they couldn't even finish watching it. Now, I personally didn't find it scary to the point of being the scariest movie and being one that I couldn't sit through and watch. However, when I found out how much this movie represents a very true story that took place in 1991 in Madrid, Spain, it suddenly made it all the more terrifying. So Veronica is a movie about a 15-year-old girl who must protect her younger brother and her younger sisters from an evil force after she plays with a Ouija board in an attempt to contact her deceased father. In turn, Veronica let something in that was just absolutely evil and malicious and dark, and it formed an attachment to her that was just unescapable. But this was the reality for a teenage girl in Madrid, Spain in 1991. And this young girl's name was Estefania, and this is her full name right here. I don't want to completely mispronounce it, as I'm sure there are accents that I probably don't necessarily know how to pronounce it. And this is the name of somebody who has passed away. So her name was Estefania, and she lived in Madrid, Spain. Now, in August of 1991, Estefania passed away, and her parents believe it was due to the fact she had played with a Ouija board 6 months prior to her passing. The cause of death for Estefania was never come to a conclusion. There is no explanation for her passing, and even more interesting, this particular case is the single-handedly only time that a police officer has filed about paranormal activity within his police report. Police officers had never prior to this documented any sort of paranormal, supernatural, unearthly activity within a police report until the case of Estefania and everything that surrounds it. So let's start at the very beginning. So Estefania's parents claim that she had been really engaging herself in occult-like activities prior to the incident that would be forever life-changing. Now, occult-like activities are very subjective to the person who is identifying it as occult-like. So for an example, to them, Ouija boards, seances, maybe even little spells, or even reading books up on it, is probably what they considered occult-like activity. Now, when one of her friends passed away in a motorcycle accident, which if you've seen the film, it is very similar, they decided to, on their school grounds, exactly like the film, engage in a seance with a Ouija board in an attempt to contact their deceased friend. Now, what I really like about this film, one moment getting off track for a second of this true story, is that it really kept those specific details. Well, it did add in different things. It's still centered around they had a friend or the girl's boyfriend or whatever it may be who had passed away due to a motorcycle accident, and they attempted to contact him via seance with a Ouija board. Now, the girl's seance with the Ouija board was interrupted by a nun. So all of that crazy stuff that happened within the film actually didn't happen in real life. However, one major thing did happen, and I believe it was the most detrimental thing to Estefania's life. And that is that the nun who caught the girls performing the seance actually snapped the Ouija board, which is what happens in the film. The Ouija board does in fact snap. A broken Ouija board is probably one of the worst things you could possibly do or have. The minute, much like the film, that you do not say goodbye. So the girls were obviously interrupted. This is the real life story, by the way. They were interrupted by this nun. They were unable to say goodbye. So whatever they had attracted or spoken to was in fact still there. However, on top of that, the nun broke the Ouija board. So not only was it still there, it was completely unleashed. Now, I read somewhere, and this just came on the top of my head. This isn't something that I was planning on speaking of prior, so definitely let me know in the comments below if this is 1,000,000,000% accurate, but I am pretty sure it is, that when a Ouija board is snapped, every single spirit, even if you've said goodbye to it, that has interacted through this Ouija board is able to be unleashed and is unleashed. And so that is a really, really terrifying thing, the fact that the nun actually snapped the Ouija board. Now, one thing that I will say is that although all of those crazy, like, dramatized events in the film didn't happen while they were playing with the Ouija board, the group did mention a strange smoke / apparition like smoke entering through and out of Estefania's nose and mouth. So they saw like this smoke coming in and out of her nose and mouth, and that is 100% what they reported. So right after this whole entire thing took place, Estefania began suffering from seizures and hallucinations, which involved shadowy dark figures swarming around her at all times. She told her parents that she would see evil shadows and figures walking past and into her room at night, and she would randomly go into a complete rage of anger and begin barking at her brothers. So her worried parents obviously took her daughter to see several doctors. This all happened over a span of 6 months. They brought her in to see many medical professionals, none of which could find anything wrong with her. They tirelessly tried to figure out what was going on with their daughter, what was happening to her, why she was suddenly suffering from seizures, why she was hallucinating, seeing these shadowy figures and seeing these evil things and getting rage taken over her body and just suddenly feeling sick. And not one single medical professional or doctor could give any sort of plausible earthly explanation as to what was suddenly happening. Whenever anybody would ask Estefania about what was going on with her, she would tell them it was something evil. It came from the Ouija board. It was something dark and evil, and it wasn't going to let her go. Now, in August of 1991, Estefania was found dead in her bedroom, just 6 months after that incident with the Ouija board. Now, like I mentioned before, there was no plausible explanation for her death. They could come to no medical consensus. There was no explanation, and her parents immediately, based off of everything that they had seen, everything that she had been experiencing, and her own words saying that it was from the Ouija board, they truly believed that something evil had unleashed that day with the Ouija board, and it was what took their daughter's life. Now, even stranger, following Estefania's death, her parents began to experience extreme paranormal activity within their home. A phenomenon that would actually be verified by police reports. They would be haunted by faint whispering that would not go away, slamming doors, electronic and electrical malfunctions. They would begin to see shadows, and they started to really experience what their daughter had claimed had been going on throughout those 6 months leading up to her passing. So around a year after the death of Estefania, her parents actually called the police, claiming that there was an evil force within their home, freaking out. And when the police arrived, they too could validate that something extremely terrifying and strange was going on within this home. They heard loud noises, they saw scratches down the wall, they too saw shadowy figures running past, but strangest of all, a picture of Estefania lit on fire within its frame. Like, the police witnessed it, they wrote about it in a report. Like, that is so beyond terrifying. Now, the senior police officer in this particular investigation will report that what he saw was both horrendous and terrifying, while 2 of his colleagues couldn't even remain within the home because they felt extremely nauseous and dizzy and sick and terrified. His colleagues were literally so traumatized by what they had witnessed that they had to leave the home moments after just entering. Now, one thing that I will say for this particular paranormal case that is very fortunate for the family is that once they actually moved homes, all of these happenings stopped abruptly and completely subsided. There was no more of this, no more photographs of her lighting on fire, no more scratching, no more shadows, no more whispers. It all just stopped. Which kind of leads me into my theory of this Ouija board, that perhaps this evil demonic entity had formed, obviously, an attachment to Estefania, but also to the home that she had basically welcomed it into, so to speak. And so perhaps when the family moved, because the Ouija board seance and the snapping of it and the attachment was to Estefania, and she brought it to that home, perhaps that spirit or demonic entity actually stayed within that home. Now, a couple of things that I really want to touch on as far as the film and just the reality of it and why I personally find it so terrifying are these. So first and foremost, one thing that I absolutely hate as a critic of horror films, as somebody who has done paranormal research and really dives into, you know, the reality of hauntings, of possession, of, you know, demonic encounters. One thing that I really, really despise is when it's so dramatized for Hollywood that it loses complete authenticity to what could truly happen. And one thing that I can truly say about this film is there were really no scenes in it that I felt like this wouldn't happen in real life, because all of these things really, really and truly could. There were a couple of particular scenes where I was like, they are so subtly representing what really happens. For an example, when the girls were contacting, you know, Veronica's father and their friend's boyfriend, it began to do a figure 8 on the Ouija board, which means evil. It began to go sporadically in a circle. It did everything that would be severe warning signs that you are contacting a demonic force. Another scene that I found a lot of people who are dealing with a demonic attachment or possession that was very, very properly represented was she had a specific dream where her siblings were like chewing off her skin, which I found that scene to be kind of cheesy when I was watching it. However, when I realized that they so subtly threw in that she had real bite marks all over her body following this, people have experienced attacks through dreams while they are being attacked by some sort of a demonic force. And when they awake, they actually have markings in those specific places. So that was actually a representation of what people can encounter. Another thing that I found extremely terrifying was the fact that in certain scenes within the film, this demonic entity chose to take the form of Veronica's father, which is who she was initially trying to contact. And that is, much like Mona's story, a very terrifying reality for when you contact something evil or demonic. And that is that it can try to deceive you and pretend to be something that it isn't. I could go on for a long time on all the things in this film that I found were very, very true representations of, you know, leading up to possession and demonic attachments. But I can say this film was very, very well done in the sense of properly representing everything. You know, there weren't so many jump scares. It was more so what was scary about this film to me is that they took a true story. They took Estefania's story and they turned it into a horror film, and even the parts that they dramatized were like real things that happened in these particular cases. Well, that is essentially the story of Veronica. Now, one thing that I really want to say is I know that during this video I said the word no plausible explanation, and people think that I pronounce it like P-L-O-S-S-I-B-L-E. I know it's plausible, but sometimes my accent makes things sound different and strange, so I'm sorry if that bothered you throughout this. That just came to mind. But I was really excited to share this particular film's true story with you because I really enjoyed how it was portrayed on film and how they represented this true story. I really feel like this is a pivotal moment, so to speak, for horror films, and the fact that it wasn't all jump scares, it wasn't all, you know, completely far-fetched things. These are real scenarios that people unfortunately experience, and they were turned into a motion picture that I think was very well done. Have you guys seen Veronica? What do you think of the true story? How do you think they correlate? Do you think they did a good job? Did you enjoy it? Were you scared? That's like 5 million questions. But please drop a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the film Veronica. Let me know what you thought of the true story. And did it scare you as bad as everyone seems to be saying online? Because I definitely thought it was well done. It had me on the edge of my seat, but I never once contemplated not finishing it. I don't know. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It was really highly requested, and I'm so happy to have done it. And on that note, if you're new to my channel or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my videos, I would absolutely love it if you subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you never miss a video, and join the Reese's Pieces because we believe in the unbelievable. So if you too believe in the unbelievable or you just want to hear about it, we would love it if you would join the family. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it. It makes my heart ridiculously happy to know that you guys enjoy the content that I create. It means the absolute world to me, so please do that. Remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.